And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Arcane Radio, our first show of 2017. Of course, I'm Sean the Fork Chop Forker. If you've been following us for a long time, if you haven't, welcome to the program. Of course, I'm joined tonight by my esteemed colleagues, Mr. Lon Strickler, the Everman over at phantomsandmonsters.com, and Mr. Butch Witkowski from the Pennsylvania UFO Research Center. Gentlemen, welcome back to the program, and thanks for joining us. I'm a little rusty.
Yeah, we got to get our sea legs back with us.
Here's the swimming with.
Yeah, we are finally back after 2 weeks of playing around, but
nothing ever goes like we planned. So, as much as we'd like to be back live, it's always, it's hard when you've got three guys and schedules and everything else, and it's not like we're backed by CBS. So,
no, it isn't. But things happen, and
Well, we're back anyhow. Boy, that's a train.
Did you? Yeah, that's my train.
Nice.
That's what I had to listen to every hour almost.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought that was something paranormal for a second. I was like, Lon, what the hell was that?
Yeah, I've got a train and I've got traffic out front, and that's what you do when you live in an old house. You hear everything.
That's true. Butch, how you doing, my man? Been a while.
Busy.
UFOs picked up?
Yep, keeping us stepping. Some paranormal stuff. Our cryptid buddy up there, wherever he's at, and a new cryptid that popped up, and up in Perry County, and just a lot of stuff at one time.
A new cryptid, you say? Tell me about this.
Well, I mean, I got you talking about the one. Oh, you're talking about the canid.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was something that came into me. It was actually just north of Tuscarora State Forest. This guy was hunting for deer. This was on December 3rd, which was a Saturday morning. He had a tree stand, and it was on the edge of a large field. And he said he'd been hunting there about 20 years, bagged a couple of deer there. He said he saw something that morning and couldn't explain. It was about 7:10 a.m., just turning light, and he noticed a few deer in the distance running toward the state forest. So he said he looked through his scope and saw what he thought were two coyote following the deer. But these coyote didn't look right. They were larger and almost looked like wolves. So about 15 minutes later, he said he was watching a buck about 600 yards south of him in the open field when it bolted and toward the trees. He then saw a large dog-like animal. He said it was slowly walking or stalking. He said he wasn't sure, but it was headed in his direction. He was upwind from it, and it soon noticed him in the tree stand. He said it stopped and looked at him for a few seconds and started walking towards him again. It was about 100 yards or so from him, and he started hearing it growling. He said it wasn't a dog or a coyote. He said it reminded him of a wolf, but he said the back was arched and the head was huge. The fur was very dark, and the legs were odd with sparse hair. He said, I thought about shooting it, but something told me not to. He said, I was shaking also. He said, this animal really scared me. He said, once again, stopped moving and looked at me for a few seconds. He said, the face was that of a wolf, but the snout was shorter than any wolf photo he had ever seen. He said it had steely eyes, almost like those of a human. He said, really weird. He said something caught its attention, and it ran off towards the south. He said, I stayed in the stand for another hour and didn't see anything during that time. When I did leave the stand, I was very cautious. I had no idea if it was in the area, and he said he reached his car and he took off. So he talked to the game commission officer later and reported the animal. He said that there had been a few reports of large dogs, but they were most likely coyote. He said he told him it was not a coyote, but he didn't seem to care. So he said he got my website and my guy church. So I did talk to the guy. He didn't really add a whole lot. He said, the arch back though is what intrigued me. And he told me on film it kind of reminded him of how like a hyena's back, how the backside kind of is lower, and the back is arched. It's interesting because Stan Gordon called me. He's gotten, and I put out his 2016 report today, and he got 2 sightings since that one of similar type of similar type of wolves. The one he said may have been a coy wolf, but the other one he wasn't sure about. So I don't know. What do you think, Butch?
Butch is still with us? You there, Lon?
Yeah,
You hear me?
Oh, there we go. Now we got you.
Wow. Anyway, no, I think the thing that's disturbing is the part that, he had a clear shot at it, that's for sure, and then something told him not to shoot. So what is that connection there that we have with every other report we have of the bipedal canine where people are told to get out of Dodge, or they have weapons in their hand and they don't use them because they're afraid?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, we do get witnesses that tell us that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So is it something that's being relayed telepathically, or is it emotion? Is it imagination? I doubt very much imagination. I mean, the guy's 100 yards off with a high-powered rifle. I mean, he could have took out anything at that distance.
Sure.
And he something told him not to shoot. Now, did the creature tell him not to shoot, or did something else tell him not to shoot?
Perhaps his instincts? Something psychological going on there?
It could be, sure.
I'm hearing this a lot with folks that are experiencing something out of the ordinary. They see something they can't explain, and they have a weapon in their hand. And I was talking to Mike Freeman, the son of legendary Bigfoot tracker Paul Freeman, who took the Freeman film, or a Freeman video. I guess it's not really a film, but that's neither here nor there. And, he has made a claim, and at his point back in the day, that when he experienced this, he also was unable, like something told him to leave it alone, go away. And perhaps there's something to it. Rather, there's some, and I hate to say this as I roll my eyes thinking it, albeit mind speak, or maybe somebody listening to their own better angels, they hadn't. And maybe it's perhaps they didn't best for their own safety.
Well, I think that's a lot of it. I think people are, they don't know what kind of being or beast this is. They just don't know how it's going to react to a gunshot. And, if it's big enough, and you hear this with Bigfoot, people say they had a shot, but they didn't take it. Well, if you're walking around with a shotgun, I wouldn't shoot that one with a shotgun, and, I don't know, unless you had slugs or something, but then again, that still had to be fairly close. So I don't know. Of course, I never had that experience, but I don't know. I don't know what it is. But
I would think that, you have a high-powered weapon in your hand, whether it be a pistol or a rifle, and it could cross your mind that, like, I could shoot the whole clip, and this thing is going to keep coming. Then what do I do? So maybe I just don't shoot and just hope for the best.
Well, yeah, I can agree with that.
That's a possibility. I mean, I don't know. I guess you have to be able to trust your own shot, too, because if you, take a shot and miss, you're lining yourself up to be a hot lunch, and I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's true. Well, he was looking at it through a scope, and this thing really scared him. So we've heard, everybody that has seen these things or has got an encounter with it really has their hackles go up with it because they're just so, I don't know, they kind of reminds them of a werewolf or something that's, they don't, that they've heard about in horror movies and they just don't want anything to do with it. And, so I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
What else we got? There's got to be some other things going on out there. We've been off for a while, so you've had to get some crazy shit come through. I mean,
I have had a lot of stuff coming in. I had a thing the other day about BEKs infesting a Lakota reservation up in the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, the Lakota Reservation in South Dakota.
And that's black-eyed kids, right?
Yeah, yep, I was doing an investigation in a shamanic group on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation was called in to investigate and bless a home.
Okay.
Now, the incidents began when two sisters observed a black-eyed boy outside the house or home or Hogan or whatever it was they were living in. Not long later, a group of ashen white-skinned children with black eyes were seen congregating around the property in an attempt to interact with the other children living around there. The first two occasions, there were only two of them, and they asked to be let inside the house to get food. The third time, a third BEK showed up, and this time they asked for blood.
What?
They were never granted access to the house. The children described their voice as not normal, robotic, and monotone. Pets were also went missing around this time around the property. The parents of the children also recalled seeing the children. They also claimed to have noticed strange events around their home, including poltergeist activity and the sighting of, on at least two occasions, strange entities that they later thought were alien.
Is there precedent for that in these black-eyed kid encounters? Asking for, did you say a bowl of blood?
Just ask for blood. Ask for blood.
Nice. That's tasteful.
David Weatherly put this up on his website, and I posted and commented that that was unusual, and I for the life of me, I don't know how you can describe these kids. I mean, there are people who do say that, well, they look like vampires. Well, that's neither here or there. But then again, if somebody comes up to you and asks for blood, and they look like a vampire, and there's something seems to be wrong with them, I mean, I guess it would make you think a bit.
Well, now, come on. This is the year 2017. It was just not too long ago. We have people doing bath salts, eating people's faces off in the street in the middle of the day. So, if somebody comes up to me and asks for some blood, I'm probably going to haul off and punt them and then get the F out of D, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm not going to mess around. Who the hell comes up and asks for some blood? Hey, can I have some blood, buddy? You mind?
Red Cross.
You got a pint to spare? Yeah, but still, most of the time, Butch, you got to go to a van for that. Of course, Baker's around. He has a van of his own. And
so every time Lon brings up BEKs, I go check my front door to make sure it's locked.
Yeah, I know. I'm like upstairs. I don't want to go downstairs.
Carry a cattle prod with you too.
Jeez Louise.
I'm going to tell you. I mean, now all the early BEKs that we heard about, and I'm talking about 4 or 5 years ago and before that. It was always about kids, black-eyed kids coming to the door and asking to be let in. Now all of a sudden we've got older black-eyed people, and all kinds of, I don't know, even different races, and they're roaming all over the damn place. I mean, it's not just people coming to kids coming to the door. It's all kinds of situations. Well, look at JC's encounter him and Jack Harry had out on the reservation.
How about the lady, and I think it was in Miami, where they were coming to her second floor balcony sliding glass door?
Yeah,
that's just horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've had my share of a few odd things too since we were on the radio. I had some type of entity attack at the hospital.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. I was in there the Thursday before the last 2 weeks ago, Thursday 2 weeks ago, and I was getting tests for my surgery tomorrow. So, I'm in there. Went into the hospital and was at the pre-surgery testing area, and I checked or checked in. So I was just waiting for the nurse to come. So I sat there, and it was weird because I experienced a flash of pink and light green color in my mind's eye, and I've mentioned this before. I usually sense this color combination when there's a strong spirit energy near me. I don't know. I can't explain it. It's just something that happens to me. After this happened, it kind of stunned me. Then suddenly I sensed the presence of a female spirit. And at the same time, I felt increasing pressure on my throat. In fact, I had the sensation something was wrapped around my neck and pressing hard on my throat. I wasn't gagging, but it was uncomfortable, and it lasted for about 10 seconds. We stopped. Now there was other people sitting there. I don't know if they noticed me, because I tried not to flip out. So I gained my bearings and attempted to pick up on the energy responsible for the attack, but I just didn't sense anything else.
Could have been anything physical. Wasn't blood sugar or anything, Lon, or just
nope.
You knew it was just something.
Yeah, it was just something. Yeah, I mean, and I sensed it too, And a few minutes later, I was called into the examination room, and the nurse was asking me a few questions, and then she looked at me and asked, "Where'd you get those marks in your throat?" And I stood up and I walked over to the mirror, and sure enough, there were red marks in my lower throat, across my lower throat. And I got some pictures on the blog. Anyway, this isn't the first time that I've been subjected to to an entity or psychic attacks.
No, I remember the scratches.
I showed you the scratches with them. Yeah,
that's
and it occurs. I mean, yeah, and but it's usually if I'm doing a clearing session or involved in a remote view or something where I'm actually doing something, not just sitting around in a hospital. Now, granted, hospitals are notorious for the presence of various earthbound entities. Any other location where people pass away is going to have them. So, but hospitals are notorious for that. They're also notorious for pretty strong portals. I mean, I've sensed them before in hospitals, and I've talked to people who've had them, sensed as well. I mean, the fact that people have, go into a surgery or especially if they've got a surgery where it's an emergency, it's life-threatening, and they talk about these near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences. It does happen, and it kind of does leave a person vulnerable for any type of malevolency that may be hanging around. So, I kind of post this. I mean, post this as a warning that, I ask people to protect themselves when they, go in these type of situations, especially in places like a hospital, funeral home, cemeteries, anywhere where these spirits that they may be around. So,
well, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
That was. I didn't expect that, but you never know. Stuff like that does happen, and it does happen to me, and you know that, and so.
Well, I've seen it. I mean, I've not seen you physically attack, but I've seen the repercussions of said assaults in the past.
Big old scratch I had down my belly that one time. Yeah. When we were up in Gettysburg.
I mean, this isn't new. I mean, we've been friends for a while now. We've been colleagues for a while now, and I've seen you subjected to some pretty interesting physical results from some interesting situations. So it happens, and it's not just solely you, right? There's other folks out there that have these physical attacks by non-visible entities and entities, whatever you want to call them. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a very weird phenomenon.
Part of the deal. I mean, when you do this, whether you want to or not, or if ethereal attacks they do happen. I mean, it just does happen. So.
Well, I wish I could say that my time away has been as eventful as you's and Butch's. My English is so great too. Very tired. Bear with me. It's been a traumatic week. I guess the only thing that's going through is my daughter turns 14 tomorrow.
I told him, Butch. I said,
14. Like, where's the time go?
Now,
it's not fair. We don't get them long enough. It's
no, we don't.
And it sucks. And without getting all sentimental and dad-like on our listeners who are here to talk about paranormal things, I guess the only thing paranormal in my life is aging, and we got to all get used to that at some point or another. But it's been very dead for me. No Bigfoot reports, no paranormal reports coming in. I thought folks forgot about me for a while, but I'm glad that which I'm not complaining about. It's not like I had the extra time to deal with that. I started, and I'm working with Pennsylvania Sasquatch Research Facebook group, and my buddy Maz Adams and I, and formerly Dave Groves, have a podcast called The Nocturnal Journal, something semi-regular, nothing like this. It's going to be weekly. And we talked to Cliff Barrickman a couple weeks ago, and actually about a month ago. And then over the weekend, Maz and I spoke to Mike Freeman, again, the son of Paul Freeman. And what a conversation. I haven't laughed that hard in my life, most of which you folks won't hear. There is an edited and an unedited version of the program. And for legal reasons, I'm pretty sure you will never hear the unedited version. But I assure you, anybody who knows me personally knows I have a tendency to get a little out of control sometimes, and that was one of those situations, and by God was it funny, but it would definitely make my mother blush, so we're not going to put that on the radio. That being said, that's about it for me. It's just been kind of quiet, and I got a lot of books to read. I mean, Lon, you keep piling up our guests, and
yeah,
I wish we could have a guest that would write who the hell tells these people they have to write books that are like 300 pages long? Can't anybody write a short book, like a picture book or something, for crying out loud? Like, I see Shannon.
Like the one we're going to talk about tonight, quite frankly.
That's a perfect size book, really.
Yeah, it really is.
I see Shannon LeGros in the chat room, and she's the host over at Into the Fray Radio, fantastic podcast, one of my favorites for anybody else who wants a show to listen to. I love that program. She reads an awful lot of books too, and I just don't know where I don't know where the hell you guys find the time to read these books. I need to get them on tape because there's a lot of them, and they're so big. Hell, the one guy we were going to have on the program, his bibliography was like 200 pages.
Yeah, it was. Oh, man. Yeah, that's right. I mean, we do get some long ones, but, it's a lot of information for some of these subjects, especially the ones we don't know anything about. Then we got to read all of it. But, that's the way it goes. We did have one inquiry come in with Keystone Bigfoot Project, the thing down by the Waynesboro Reservoir.
Yeah, that did come in, didn't it?
We had a gentleman and his wife heard all kinds of crazy sounds coming from down there. It's an area that's, I don't know, it's about maybe 10 miles south of Route 30 by Caledonia State Park. It's near the Waynesboro Reservoir, which is infamous for the Bigfoot track from, when was that?
Oh, that was early in the 2000s.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that was a big deal back then, and
2004 maybe. I want to say about that time. I could be off a year or two, but I think they were found. Were they found to be hoaxed?
I don't know. I don't know. I still really can't make a judgment on that, though. There has been Bigfoot activity in that area.
Oh yeah, well we know
Sure.
from what's been going on the last couple of
Yeah.
years that southern area of PA really picking up with the activity, and
Yeah.
it's just sporadic though. Like and it's been that way with the whole damn state. That
Yeah.
it was in the past that everything was coming in from that southwestern part of Pennsylvania, and then it kind of exploded all over the state, and now it's here, there. It's piecemealed across the state. There's no real. I mean, let's be honest. We've had more consistency with these upright canine cryptids than we have with the Bigfoot last year.
Yeah. We have. Yeah.
I mean, in terms
Well,
of the
that's keeping us
dispersion of
busy.
sightings, it is. I mean, it is, but man, it's getting hard to nail down a pattern. Which is, I'm a pattern person. I'd like to see if we can. Maybe there is not a pattern to it. I don't know. I don't know. But of course, for our folks who are tuning in tonight, they want to hear about our guest, Mr. Lyle Blackburn, and we're going to have Lyle on to talk about his book, Monstro Bizarro. Of course, the Boggy Creek documentary that he and my good friend Seth Breedlove and the gents at Small Town Monsters put out.
Amazing film.
Isn't it fantastic? I mean, visually gorgeous. I can't say enough about it. And, of course, they're now working on a Mothman documentary together, and I'm really excited about that. I kickstart all these, and, of course, the Kickstarter will be up, I believe, February 1st or February 2nd. If you go to Facebook.com and search Small Town Monsters, you'll be able to find all the information to get geared up for that. And I've been very pleased with the quality of productions they've put out. I've never been disappointed. I know Seth. I know how hard he works and how diligent he is about putting out a quality product. Same with Lyle. And if you folks want to be part of something special and something, I always say historic, kickstart these projects. They do them justice. There's not a lot of fluff. They tell it how it is. The stories are as told by the witnesses. They're visually appealing, and they just rock. And I can't say enough good things about. I have some very talented friends. I'm very proud of them. And whenever I have good people in my life that do some fantastic work, I cannot help myself but share it. And Lon, you watched it today. You know exactly how good it is. It is.
It's
great
really
stuff.
good. I mean, Lyle did the narration as well, and it is. It's an excellent film.
Yeah, it is, and I can't wait to see what they're going to do with Mothman. And, after I smoke more cigarettes and drink some scotch, maybe I can get into the narration business. I don't smoke, but the scotch I'm a fan of, so maybe we can get more of that and, just improve that voice a little bit. But about, do you have his bio up, Lon? Do you want to read it? You want me to read it?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead, Lon.
Lyle, of course, is an author, musician, crypto researcher from Texas. The investigative cryptozoology books, the Beast of Boggy Creek and Lizard Man, reflect his lifelong fascination with legends and sighting reports of real-life monsters. During his research, Lyle has often explored the remote reaches of the southern U.S. in search of shadowy creatures said to inhabit the dense backwoods and swamps of these areas. Lyle served as a consulting producer and special episode host for the TV show Monsters and Mysteries in America and was featured in the documentary film Boggy Creek Monster. He recently wrote Monstro Bizarro, an essential manual of mysterious monsters, which can be found on his website at lyleblackburn.com. And he as well has a new book coming out February 1st titled Beyond Boggy Creek in Search of the Southern Sasquatch. So I guess we'll be back with Lyle Blackburn.
We'll be right back. It's going to go quiet for a little bit. Smoke them if you got them. We'll be back. And welcome back, folks. Arcane Radio, Sean Forker, Lon Strickler, Butch Witkowski, and our special guest, Mr. Lyle Blackburn. Lyle, thanks for taking the time out to join us tonight.
Hey, guys. No problem. Good to be here.
And we got a copy right here on my desk of Monstro Bizarro. What a beautiful piece of work, and not just from the content, but it just looks stunning. It's a fantastic piece.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, they do some good graphically visual layouts at Rue Morgue, so I was really excited when I saw the end product of that. So yeah, kind of a fun book to work on.
Yeah, I don't know where you find the time to work on all these books. You're a busy man. You got your hands in just about every form of media you can involving cryptids. You wrapped up Boggy Creek Monster, which was fantastic, by the way. I can't say good enough things about it. Your experience with that seemed to be a very good experience.
Oh, yeah, I really enjoyed working on that. And of course, I thought that Small Town Monsters and Seth, had the right approach to those kind of documentaries. I've been approached before, but just kind of shied away. But I thought those guys, they could really do it right, let the witnesses tell the story. So it was a lot of fun to, work on that and take them down to the area and get all the filming done. And it, turned out really, really good, and we've had a great response. So it was a very good experience.
Yeah, and I guess you're going to be working with them on the new Mothman documentary coming out.
Yeah, I think we apparently had a great collaboration as far as working on Boggy Creek Monsters. So they wanted to continue that and bring me in some form on the others. While I won't appear on film as I did in Boggy Creek, I still would be involved in just the decisions and helping to write the script for the narration and things like that. So I'm excited about that as well.
Well, I think part of the elements that made Boggy Creek so good was your narration was very good. We just talked about that briefly before we came back on the air, but you really did the movie justice. I thought it was a great part. Besides the music, it was one of the elements that really brought the film to life. It was well done.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was. It's a learning curve on the narration. I'd done a TV episode on Monsters and Mysteries in America where they did the Blackburn files, and I narrated that, and obviously I sing in a band, so I've had some experience in it, but really once I got to Boggy Creek, this was something that I could really work on and make it my own. And of course it is actually very close to my heart and home, so it was something that I thought came out very well in the end, and when I watched it, I thought it went well with the film. So I was happy.
I completely agree.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Lyle. Now I know you have been investigating the Boggy Creek Monster for a long time. Well, they gave you a bit of a biography in the film. Did you run across any new witnesses while you were doing the movie?
It seems like every time I go up there that, I hear something from somebody, some tidbits here and there. They don't always turn out to be, lengthy sightings or necessarily good sightings. But it seems like every time I'm up there, I hear something new. And of course, I do come across new, very credible, very substantial sightings. Every year they pile up. So definitely, there wasn't anything necessarily new that we found while we were working on the film. All the witnesses that we presented there were ones that I had already interviewed and had, thought these are the folks that have, what I consider the best stories and the people that would even agree to talk. I mean, there's a number of witnesses down there that just, they just don't want to appear on camera, and it's I respect that privacy. So there's a lot of them that you don't see, and then some I can include in my books that you just can't include everybody in the film. So definitely, it's always a growing investigation.
It was an excellent film. I repeat what Sean says. Seth does a fantastic job with these cryptid films, and Mothman. I can just imagine what that's going to be like. And since the Mothman is my favorite cryptid, I don't know if anybody knows that, but it is. I'm looking forward to that. And this Monster Bizarro book, I tell you, I was really surprised how good it was when I started going through it. In fact, I put it on my notable list for books. It really is one of my new favorite books. It's got the detail and the way that it's presented, and the variety as well. It's just really good. I mean, you just don't see a lot of that in a crypt. You know, when you got buy a book that's got listings of cryptids in it, it's kind of a bland. It's kind of a bland presentation for the most part. But this with the artwork and the way that these creatures are described and the evidence that you've got in there, it really is a spectacular and very different type of presentation.
Yeah, well, thanks.
I just wanted to tell you that it it is one of my new favorite books.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. It's different. I mean, it's obviously different than the books that I write, just as me, and they're, written primarily with words, not so many visuals. But, for those that haven't seen it, of course, it's part of I write for the horror magazine Rue Morgue, and I sort of specialize in cryptids. They're very into the cryptozoology thing, and I kind of bridge the gap between the real world of cryptozoology, real life sightings, and the histories of these creatures, and what many portray them in films. There's a lot of Bigfoot movies and other cryptids in films, so I'm sort of the go-between with that, and it's a lot of fun to write that kind of stuff, and to as a fan of horror movies myself, and to kind of add that sort of element and perspective on real life cryptozoology. So with this book, they just said, it's part of their library series, and they just gave me the reins to bring in what I wanted. It reprints a few articles from Rue Morgue, and then I had new content, and just very different, like you say. Yeah, I can cover Bigfoot in films, and weird Chupacabra films, and lake monsters, and a whole lot of stuff that really doesn't get a lot of recognition. And then the way they lay out that graphics and include all the visuals, it just makes a really cool book. And it was quite, successful, I think, as far as their library series of books go. They print quite a few of those, and those get shipped out to an audience. And it's a way for me to write also to an audience that doesn't normally follow cryptozoology necessarily. This could be a horror movie enthusiast that they've seen some Bigfoot movies, but they probably don't understand the world of cryptozoology. So that's what's fun for me, is to really pull somebody in who's not necessarily into the subject. And so that was a fun part of that project.
Yeah, I like how you added the humanoids from film and reality. That was pretty cool. And it's funny how some of the reports we get are, they're so parallel to some of the film creatures from the 50s and 60s. I mean, to a degree, but I mean, it does kind of remind you of some of them. Of course, with the Bishopville monster and the creature from the Black Lagoon comparison, that's absolutely, that's really spot on. And some of the other the Mongolian death worm, that was probably one of the first stories I did when I started the blog, and I thought it was so unusual, and you don't really see a whole lot about it, but putting it in your book, it just kind of highlights a lot of different things that, the way you're thinking, the way it's put together. The spider monsters, and you even had pictures of toys that have legendary toys, and some other things that have come out. And I really highly recommend it. I think anyone who even has an inkling of interest in cryptozoology should really get this book. I'm quite sure. And I know Sean was saying that his kids were reading it too. So it's yeah, I think it's for everybody. Really do.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely written, and when I approach that stuff, I do keep in mind the audience could be literally anybody. They could just be, it could be kids, it could be somebody who's just into horror movies, or somebody who's into cryptozoology. So I sort of keep that in mind as the audience, and really try to use it as a platform to, to show how much cryptozoology really is out there in culture, from toys and movies and even music. It's just everywhere, and it's, for us, we know the side of getting the real life reports, and that just really makes it even more intriguing if I can get somebody to read one of those reports, like the giant spider one and stuff. I mean, that's, it sounds like something out of a movie, but this is something that, a witness reported to David Weatherly. That's real stuff. So it's, life is stranger than horror fiction in some ways.
Yeah, and I think, well, of course, when I get this stuff, I write about it, I post it, and people, I guess a lot of people roll their eyes at it, but we get all kinds of crazy sightings, and that's just the that's just the nature of the beast, basically.
We're just reporting the news here,
Yeah, we report what we get. That's it.
You can screen it to try to see what is best you can to weed out the really crazy stuff. But I mean, ultimately, it's these are, as if you follow up these witnesses, they have seen something, and they have seen something strange and unexplainable, and that is the report.
Yep. So your new book that's coming out, Beyond Boggy Creek, the Southern Sasquatch. So how broad of an area are you going to encompass in this next book?
Well, I basically started with the premise that Boggy Creek is quite famous, and I've become notable for that subject matter, but I've also researched and there's a long history of sightings of similar creatures all over the South. And I sort of used that as a guide to sort of follow the waterways and the terrain out from Boggy Creek and start exploring these other, cases, which in many cases are just as fascinating and some frightening, and has all the elements that, the legend of Boggy Creek has. It was a huge undertaking, and I thought at times I've bitten off more than I can chew, but I basically wanted to cover the whole Deep South, which, if you look at southern United States, give or take, you're looking at 13, 14 states. I finally narrowed that down to what's considered the deep South, and so I'm looking at about 10 states, from Oklahoma over to Florida, and just sort of that southeast chunk of territory, which has just tons of great history and of course modern reports of Bigfoot-like creatures. And so that's really what it encompasses, and the book is, what I would venture to say would be the definitive book on Southern Sasquatch, because I do try to cover everything, and try to offer the oldest reports, kind of the basis of the history, and then carry it up with examples from the modern day, and to sort of contrast and analyze the similarities between the reports that you get from, say, North Carolina versus Arkansas, for example, and sort of put it in that context. So it's a big undertaking, but I'm pretty excited about the book, and I think everybody's going to really enjoy it if they like my style and my investigative approach. This is just on a grand scale of me going all through the South, and I do go to these places. I mean, there's tons of pictures in the book, and most of the pictures I took myself on location in Florida or wherever I was. So I try to continue that personal touch with the investigations in this book as well.
Well, I look forward to it. I really do. If it's anything like the Bishopville book with the Bishopville Monster and the original Boggy Creek book, I am definitely looking forward to it, and I'm quite sure it's going to be very well received.
Yeah, I'm excited, and with the title. I mean, I could have called it, the Southern Sasquatch or something, but I thought it made a perfect sense to kind of continue that Boggy Creek sort of vibe and go beyond Boggy Creek, so to speak. So the cover art is going to reflect. What I'm doing is a series here, I guess. So it's got a similar vibe to the first Beast of Boggy Creek book. So, it's the next book in the collection.
Without giving too much away, or without talking about any of the cases that are going to be in the book, what kind of cases have come across your desk lately, Lyle?
Well, there's been several. We've kind of been looking into this, what we call a gorilla sighting from the 60s up here, not too far, about an hour from outside of Dallas where I live, in which some people reported seeing what they described as a gorilla. Those reports to me are very good ones because, back in the early 60s, they didn't have the context of Bigfoot in which to report. Nobody had Bigfoot on the brain. They saw something strange. The best they could do was describe it as a gorilla. Of course, we look at it now and say, well, it probably wasn't a gorilla. And, of course, they say it walked upright, it was tall and man-like in any way. Of course, it sounds like Bigfoot. So that's one that's come up. I mean, it's an old one. But one that you just keep getting these very cool tidbits of information that you just keep adding to those pinpoints on the map all throughout the South. And, my book has, a ton of those as well. And in addition to that, a lot more recent sightings. I investigated some or spoke to some witnesses up in Arkansas that had a really eerie encounter. There was 3 of them. They were hunting, and they were out at this hunting lease, and there was an old, like an abandoned house. It had no power in it, but it was some place where hunters could, sleep for the night and so forth. And they had gone out there, and they were looking at their feeders. They noticed something standing in the woods, and they weren't quite sure what it was and kind of dismissed it. But later on, they got up to this hunting cabin and kind of got settled in there, and it's dark, it's spooky, and that I've slept in those hunters' cabins before. They're already kind of spooky, and then they hear something moving around, and ended up going outside and seeing this huge, like 7-foot tall, hairy creature run around the side of the house. And the 2 guys were alarmed, and the third person in the house was in there, and apparently this thing went into the cabin, and the other hunter didn't know it and had quite a close call with the creature before it ended up running out. So that was one that, in my mind, was, I mean, it could have been on a screen for The Legend of Boggy Creek, you know what I mean? It's one of those cases that's was spooky, and here I am talking to I spoke to 2 of those hunters myself, so I felt confident that they were telling me, a true story. They were very, very credible type witnesses, and those are the kind of cases that just keep coming across the desk, so to speak.
I guess that's always the best thing about investigating so many, is after a while, when you talk to these experiencers, that you can just tell by their demeanor, their body language, how honest they really are. And it's just amazing to get these stories and these encounters. I had one similar up here in Potter County, Pennsylvania, with a hunter on a private hunting lease. And his job, of course, we need to afford him the anonymity he deserves, but very experienced outdoorsman, and he saw something he couldn't explain. And Those are always my favorite reports and encounters we get are from gentlemen or gentlemen, ladies that work in the professional fields, and they can't explain what they see. That just even adds more to the mystery. I feel.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the more folks you interview, the more you see that cross section of society. Everybody kind of has this impression that Bigfoot witnesses are, rednecks that live in the woods, and I mean, in some cases, sure, if you live in the woods, you're more likely to see an animal who lives in the woods. But you've got those cross section of doctors and dentists and guys out hunting and people with, these are your average people, intelligent people that have these experiences, and it goes to show you, and probably would surprise some people at how many different types of people and career people see these, and it's hard to dismiss those credible type reports.
Yeah, definitely. So along with the Bigfoot creatures, Lyle, you investigate just about any strange cryptid unknown animal that comes across your way. Have any interesting reports of anything other than Bigfoot creatures?
Yeah, there's been a few things. There was one little thing I was investigating recently, in which this is a town sort of in the middle of Texas, and I've gotten a few of these lizard man type reports. I guess once I wrote the Bishopville Lizard Man book, a few things started coming at me that I wasn't aware of at the time, and there was actually a couple from Texas where people had reported seeing some kind of upright reptilian type creature. And in one of these cases, myself and my colleague Ken Gerhard, who lives here in Texas as well, we went to a small town and followed up on a sort of we weren't sure, but it was somebody had reported so-called lizard man, but it turned out that there really was some sightings of a creature, and several people in this neighborhood had called 911, and I ended up talking to the 911 dispatcher who received the calls, and that really brought it home, because he said, these people were calling, they saw something that had come up from this wooded area where there was some train tracks, and whatever it was had cut through, I want to say a neighborhood, but there was houses around. I mean, this is a very small town, you know what I mean? It's edging on the woods, but it had come up a street, and about 5 or 6 kids had first seen it as it walked up, and they ran in the house scared to death. And of course, the mom didn't believe them, but some of the parents came out of the house, and they also saw this thing, and called the police. The police, of course, by the time they showed up, they couldn't find it. But then on subsequent nights, they got more calls, and some of the railway guys had seen it as well. So I thought that was had good credibility to it, and the best way they could describe it was a lizard man. And I'm still looking into that. I need to talk to the newspapers. There always seems like something else you can go with these things, but so I get things like that coming at me. Strange reports of. I even got a pig man report, something. And of course, my first question was, did it have the head of a pig and the body of a human, or the head of a man and the body of a pig? But apparently, it was a pig-headed creature of some sort that had run across the road in Arkansas. So I didn't find too much more on that, but it goes in the pig man file. I'm looking to build that one up.
I think I'd rather see the body of a man with the head of a pig than the body of a pig with the head of a man.
Yeah. Now that is creepy. If he said that, I'd have been, man. But I don't get a lot of lake monster reports. We don't down here in the Texas area. I mean, there's a few, I don't know, the giant catfish sort of reports, but and I never get too many lake monster type things. It's usually along the lines of Bigfoot, Lizard Man, and obviously Pig Man. And then you get the Chupacabra thing, which never really goes too far. It's usually a mangy something or another. But those things do come across the table every once in a while.
Chupacabra, again, there's another interesting cryptid. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think it's a standalone creature in itself, or do you think it's been one of these misidentified mangy mutts that have been going around eating people's livestock?
Well, the Chupacabra is kind of a confusing one because I think it's two separate cases. What you have in the original reports from Puerto Rico and Latin America from the mid-'90s, the description of that creature is quite different from what was later called Chupacabras, here in Texas and other places in the South. When people first saw these hairless, creepy dog-like creatures, the media, it's a Chupacabra. Someone called it that, and then it just became that. But it's not the same thing that was reported in the initial cases. So in my mind, whatever was taking place in Puerto Rico is a separate case, and these four-legged, hairless canids that are running around in Texas, to me, I think they very well could be a hybrid or a mutated version of a known canid, but it certainly could be something new and different. And in some of these cases, these creatures have had characteristics like nodules on the back of their hindquarters that just can't be explained. They're just not normal, even if you're talking about a hybrid of a coyote and a red wolf or something. So, the jury to me is still out on those as far as what those are, and it may be less monstrous than we may, fantasize or romanticize that it is. But if it is a hybrid or a different kind of creature and it has unique characteristics, then it is certainly a cryptid, and something that's worth investigating when you can find those cases of good ones. Most of the time people send me a picture of a hairless raccoon or whatever. Hey, have you seen this? I'm like, yeah, it's another hairless raccoon. That's not the same as some of these Blanco, Texas, where they've seen some of these more unique canids. So jury's still out on that one.
Definitely quite a conundrum when dealing with some of these strange cryptid creatures. But one that's been coming across our desk a lot, Lyle, is the good old dog man. He's been popping up everywhere again.
Yeah, I know it. That the dog man's having its day here in the last couple of years, and really going. And I was fortunate to have participated in Ken Gerhardt's Dog Man Symposium that we had last year, and that brought me into contact with some more of the people who are knowledgeable on that subject, and I got to hear some. I was just the MC at that event, which was kind of fun, just being the MC. I didn't do a presentation, but just some great, interesting stuff, and meeting Linda Godfrey and hearing about some of her research. Dogman is super creepy and very intriguing. It's something I've definitely been following as I can.
Her latest book had just some real incredible stories of these dogmen beings, not just so much as just being large, upright, canine creatures, but some of them also shape-shifting and really got into some bizarre elements that really don't fit the profile of many of the cryptids we investigate. Do you think there's a lot more to some of these creatures than meets the eye, or do you think it might just be witness embellishment or just confusion?
I think it could be a little bit of everything. I mean, to me, sometimes what I see in this is that we try to create scenarios that can explain these things, because a lot of these sightings are quite hard to explain in physical terms. You know, I mean, the thing is just the fact that it's a canine-like creature, wolf-like creature walking on two legs for any length of time is already hard to reconcile. And then, you know, if it has some strange behavior, or if it seems to disappear or move from place to place or any of that, I think that you start to get people theorizing more in the realms of paranormal or supernatural type explanations. So I think it's just a way to try to come to grips with just what is it, you know, and people throw out all the theories, and you know, people have their opinions about all of it, and I kind of try to stay more with the base opinion of a biological creature in these cases. But you know, I think it's just a result of the phenomenon being very strange, being, you know, otherworldly in some regards, and then people applying the best explanations they can to these. And I think, you know, you can have some embellishment or confusion by the witness. I mean, most of these sightings are in darkly lit scenarios. They're fast. They're probably scary, unexpected, and you know, eyewitnesses is not the most reliable, you know, evidence, unfortunately. So some of that you got to chalk up to, you know, the circumstances in which these things may be seen. But to me, it does boil down to this, especially if you look at Linda Godfrey's research. Something's going on. All these people didn't just simply make this stuff up. There has been seen some creatures that fit the description of, you know, dogmen. And, you know, again, the jury's still out. What are these things? We've just got to keep following up on it to sort it out. But you can't say that people haven't seen that. They certainly have, and it is a phenomenon that seems to be increasing.
Yeah, some of these reports, again, very vivid, too, from the witness description. I know the ones we've received up here, and Lon and Butch, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, and of course both of you will. They've been, you know, pretty flesh and blood. They've been pretty large creatures. But not a whole lot of paranormal kind of supernatural presence about them. Butch, Lon, what do you say?
Well, what do you think, Butch? I mean, I know we had at least one witness, the one up in Blair County. Well, the two witnesses actually. They had the multiple witnesses in that one that they were describing this thing as having a sheen to it, to almost made it like it was a supernatural being eating roadkill on the side of the highway. I mean, if you look into some of the reports, the other reports, you know, I believe you may find some things in the reports that may seem to think it's something very unusual. I mean, the initial report we got in Penn, you know, near Penfield, where this thing just suddenly showed up, and you wrote about, you made a mention of it in the Monstro Bizarro book, where this thing just showed up. The guy was walking his dogs. Well, that's a report that Butch got, and you know, I mean, something like that. I mean, how do you explain that? You know, you just really can't.
We know that's very similar to, you know, following Bigfoot tracks in the snow on the ground, and then they just stop.
And how many times have we heard that? I mean, you know, we hear that all the time.
No, I'm not saying it's, you know, vanishes in the thin air, but there's got to be something to it. I don't know. Beyond my level of comprehension, guys.
and I think that's what leads to the theories that start to play in with I don't know, dimensions and you know, all the other stuff. Some ways to try to explain just how that can happen, because, you know, under the assumption that was a Bigfoot, how did it walk here and then the footprint stopped, or you know, what was the glow around the dog man? It just, I think you get all these, I don't know, spitball theories to try to explain it, and you know, lack of a body. I guess it's all out there.
I just blame the crazy PA researchers. Is what I do.
Well, you live in a nutty state like this state. I mean, you tend to get a few weird things, and I don't know. It just seems like we get some weird stuff here, and every researcher up here, any cryptid researcher up here, well, I mean, they will. Every one of them's gotten something weird. I mean, something that just can't be explained.
Oh yeah, everybody up here has one that just something that just boggles their mind. And you know, I guess when we try to find the most rational explanation, we end up scratching our heads even harder because we just can't find one. And these reports tend to get a little bizarre. But Lon, you know, in your work with skinwalkers and all the other reports, you know, there again is a whole nother subject, that whole nother area that's just bizarre.
Well, you know, and Lyle knows this because, and Ken as well, you know, that area, area of Texas, south of San Antonio down to the to Laredo and in and around there, that whole area, to me, has gotten some of the most strangest reports I've ever seen. You know, little dinosaurs, upright lizards, and these, you know, the manta ray-shaped flying animals, or whatever they are, cryptids that are, you know. I get these reports from that specific area all the time, and I'm quite sure, now I know Ken does, and I'm quite sure you get them as well, Lyle.
Yeah, I was actually in Laredo, which is right on the border of Mexico and Texas, and spoke to some people down there, and got basically an eyewitness account of a lechuza, which is sort of a flying owl kind of a creature. So you know, that was very unique, and this, you know, this individual was, I mean, he was just, you know, regular guy. I mean, I felt like what he was telling me was true, and really, really strange one. And yeah, you're right. Down there, there's just all kinds of crazy stuff going on, and there's a lot. I mean, there's just a lot of landscape out there where there really is nothing. I mean, you know, there's things could, I don't know, exist and dwell in those areas that, you know, would be hard to find or just hard to explain, but yeah, definitely, you get down in there, some weird stuff. East Texas and South Texas, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and I've even said that area specifically, I have gotten more reports from that area than any other area in the country of weird stuff. I mean, I'm just talking all kinds of weird stuff, even paranormal, you know. And you talk about Laredo, I had also gotten a lot of flying type cryptids in Laredo. I've been investigating these manta ray cryptids for years now, and I got an amazing sighting down there in Laredo. I also had like a Mothman type creature seen in Laredo. I don't know. I don't know if it's coming up across the border or what it is, but it just seems there's a lot of strange stuff down there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, and it's hard. You know, sometimes I look at it. Is it a cultural thing? Because, you know, where you have the Latino culture, you know, and some of the things like lechuza, the interpretations of these creatures can be take a spin depending on the background of the person and the culture of the person describing it. But nonetheless, you boil it down, it's still some weird, unexplained, big flying thing that you just, in any language, it's still a weird creature. And you're right, there's a lot of those down there. I wish I could get down there more. Even though I do live in Texas, it's like 10 hours just to drive.
That is a long way down there, yeah. I know. I've only ever been down there one time, but it just astounds me how many weird reports around San Antonio, then south from there onto the border, and it's amazing, and these people swear to God that they've seen something and they just cannot explain it, and they're looking for answers just like anybody else. But like you said, all he can do is report it and talk to the witnesses and go with what you get.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that, by collecting these reports and having a network like you guys and speaking to each other, if one person gets a report, then you kind of go, hey, wait a minute, I remember, so-and-so got one from here, and you can sort of see kind of start mapping out places where it would corroborate sightings. And that's happened plenty of times where somebody that would have had no knowledge of, this other report that had been received by me or a colleague. Mm-hmm. And, and then you put it together and you say, well, man, this wasn't just one person that saw this. Several years later, somebody else in a totally different area, totally didn't know that guy, described a similar thing. And those are the kind of things that, like in your database, you can start building up, and it's good to have these reports and to kind of spitball them, because it always turns out that it's not necessarily a single witness that saw one weird thing. It's something that could be corroborated by others, and that always fascinates me when I find one where, oh man, well, did you know I had a guy, and when you tell the witness that, they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, you're not the only one. So I think they feel relieved, when I tell them.
Yeah, I always enjoy that as well. Say I'll get a report, and I know I got something else from years ago that was similar to that, and I usually tack it on or tack a link back to it on on the blog. But your witnesses, they want to hear that. They want somebody to tell them that they're not crazy. And I enjoy doing that as well.
In some ways, we're kind of like counselors, like these people are like, oh yeah, really relieved that, because some of them are questioning their own sanity. Like, I'm like, no, trust me, it happens more in the Bigfoot realm. I just get more Bigfoot reports, but yeah, where I assure some lady that I promise you, plenty of people have seen this. You are not crazy, and I appreciate you telling me,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, Butch can tell you. That's what we've been getting up here. I mean, first thing people say, I saw something. I know it's not real, but this thing looked like a dog that was standing up or a wolf that was standing on hind legs, and you just like, yeah, well, welcome to the club. You're preaching to the choir. I mean, we get this stuff all the time.
Right.
So, yeah.
I always love it when Lon gets something new, because then my phone starts going off the hook. He gets something exciting. He's like, holy crap, I got to share this. I love it. Like, that's what Lon gets so excited about this stuff. And he gets the weirdest crap, man. He gets some really bizarre stuff.
Yeah, I love it.
If I want something weird, I go to Lon's site just to see what's up. Yeah, it's often something quite fascinating, but it's good stuff.
It always starts the same way. You're not going to believe this, but look what I just got. And then it's like those flying rays. I still can't figure those out. Those are
no. That's one of the weirdest things. And they come in different sizes. They all look like manta rays, but they're flying. and they've got the same type of texture as a manta ray. But, first of all, how they propel. Nobody can ever explain how they propel. I've had pictures that almost look like these things, but it's hard to, people think, they move so fast, people can't really get a good picture of it. But the descriptions of it and just where they turn up, and a lot of these things turn up in the middle of the city. It's just that's strange, but it's always near water. It always either heading toward water or heading away from water.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's you say conundrum. It's exactly what it is. A conundrum.
It's a conundrum. Lyle, with Beyond Boggy Creek coming out, and the new Small Town Monsters production you're associated with, what else you got going on this year? What's going to keep you busy?
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. It just started adding up. Well, I'm also I guess professional musician, and I have a band, so I do have an album coming out in March with my band Ghoultown, something that I haven't had time to record. And once I sort of got into writing the books and TV shows and all this other stuff that came with it, I love doing this stuff, and I kind of put the band aside, or at least we didn't tour and things like we used to. But our fan base, I think, is revolted, and I had enough songs to do an album, so we finally recorded that. So I'm doing that as well. Awesome. We've got tour dates lining up for the summer in the UK and other places. So,
ooh, cool.
Going to be, I don't know, maybe the last album I ever record. I mean, the band is still somewhat popular, and I think has actually gotten more life, because once I started doing this and got had a TV profile and things like this, a lot of new people were turned on by the band. So the band was actually selling even more than ever. So I'm like, oh, great. So, I love doing all these different things. So I'm kind of doing that this year, and, but I'm starting work on a new book, and we'll just see how much I can get done without falling over.
We're going to see you at Mothman this year?
I'm putting that on the priority to try to do it. Last year, I just physically couldn't make it. I got so many events going on at usually that time of fall, but I try to get up there every other year. So I need to make a decision on that. I'm already booked like crazy, doing that International Bigfoot Conference on September 1st or whatever that date is. And, then the week after that, I do Cryptid Con in Kentucky. So September's already getting crazy.
Yeah, September's a huge month for cryptid events going on. Mothman and Cryptid Con. I just don't know how. I don't know, Lon. We got to figure out which one to get you to.
Yeah, well, I get myself straightened out. I probably will start hitting a few of these. I did want to go to the Dogman Symposium last year, and Linda and Ken did ask me, but I had so much going on with me. So, but I would love to go up there, and I would love to go to Mothman one time again too.
Yeah,
so
Mothman is an experience.
Yeah, I bet.
Last year it was killer. Like, that little town had so many people packed into it, and you've been there, Lyle. You know the town's not very big to begin with.
Yeah.
And it was just loaded with people, which was, fantastic. And, of course, this year I imagine it'll be similar. But, man, Lyle, we're just glad you took the time to join us tonight. We appreciate it. Folks, check out his books, Boggy Creek, Beyond Boggy Creek, coming out in February. Is that right?
All right. February 1st. It's coming up.
All right. Get your credit cards ready, folks. Go pick up some of Lyle's books. Monstro Bizarro, was that limited, or is there still some available? Do you know?
I think it's still available, and that you can get through Rue Morgue magazine site. Rue-morgue.com is the only way to get that. Unless somebody sees me at an event, I've got a few copies. But there's links to the stuff on my Lyle Blackburn site, so I can direct.
Yeah, go to Lyle's website, lyleblackburn.com. It's a very interesting site, and I suggest you go there if you're interested in Lyle and what he does, and everything's there.
Very interesting site for a very interesting man.
And do go to Amazon and get the rent the film, the Boggy Creek Monster. It is a very good film, and I highly suggest and recommend it. It's I was sitting here watching it this afternoon, and it's very well done, and it's something you don't normally see in a cryptid documentary. It's just that good.
Well, it got my wife's attention, Lon, and if I can get her to watch anything related to my hobbies, it's a miracle. But she really enjoyed it, so that's a good plug right there. If Forker's wife likes it, you guaranteed it's a good one. But again, Lyle, thanks very much for joining us. We really appreciate you coming on, spending some time. LyleBlackburn.com, folks. Check them out.
All right. Great talking to you guys, as always.
You too, Lyle. Take care.
Yeah, we'll be in contact, Lyle. You take care now.
Okay, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Lyle Blackburn, folks. Great guy. Love to have Lyle on the program. Next week, we're going to be talking about the Todd Seas case. We're going to be talking about an update on the upright canid cryptids of Pennsylvania, as if we don't talk about them enough every week, but next week that's what you got. Hey, but it's our show. We write the program. We can talk about anything, and we could have a whole show on cucumbers.
And Butch and I guess we can talk about the UFO sightings as well we're getting, right, Butch?
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah, let's talk about it all.
Yeah, northern Lancaster County, some strange stuff going on.
Well,
and the paranormal.
Well, paranormal. We got it all. It's a kind of a menagerie here on Arcane Radio. You can check us out every week, Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. Archive shows posted, usually on Fridays. Apparently we have some catching up to do, but it's a three-man team. We do the best we can. We don't have any fancy outlets or producers. We just as soon as I can get my hands going and my ears going, editing sucks. I hate it. I really do.
Well, if we have a clean show, it's not a whole lot.
This one's not going to be bad. This one's going to be easy to just put out there. So, it all depends on how foul we decide to. No, I'm kidding. On how it's going. And, of course, new episode of the Nocturnal Journal will be dropping soon. I got to edit that one. I'm still in the process. What do you guys got? What would you like to plug shamelessly?
I got a train coming. I know that. I hear him down the way a bit. At first you got on the radio, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I was like, what the hell was it?
It's that loud. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And I live, I don't know, I'm about 200 yards away from the track, and it's loud. They come through here a hell, and I mean, even it's a small town I live in, and the ambulance and fire trucks come through here like, I mean, it's nuts. But I moved away from the city. I thought, geez, it's going to be quiet. Nah, not quiet anymore.
Not your luck, Lon. Everything follows you. Everything. And we'll talk more about that on other programs. No, but
I know.
Well, good.
It should be an interesting show next week. I mean, we don't have a whole lot to go over as far as new information on the Todd Seas case, but there's some there.
But you know what? Talking about it every once in a while never hurts to keep it active.
Absolutely. I mean, Butch and I are, we're still working out the theories, and every once in a while somebody will come up with something else, and we'll go back and start looking at it again. But, it's not like it was when we were trying to, Butch was out there like every day. He was getting all kinds of stuff. We were on the phone for hours and hours all those days just trying to figure out what the hell was going on. But yeah, it's there is some workable theory there that isn't too outrageous, but I guess that's a matter of interpretation. Whoever listens to it, and they can think what they want. But Yeah, and we're going to talk about all kinds of different stuff. So it should be an interesting show.
All right. Butch, give folks your website where they can check you out.
It's u4cop.com.
u4cop.com. And, of course, Lon, phantomsandmonsters.com. And check
Absolutely.
me out on theforkchop.net. Folks, you can always go to arcaneradio.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Arcane Radio. I'm Sean Forker. He's Lon Strickler. That's Butch Witkowski. We'll see you next week, folks. Thanks for listening. Good night, everybody.